It originally was a center for the trade in timber and gold. It was later used in the transatlantic slave trade. Other Ghanaian slave castles include Elmina Castle and Fort Christiansborg. They were used to hold slaves before they were loaded onto ships and sold in the Americas, especially the Caribbean. Under the rule of the Dutch West Indies Company, around 30,000 slaves a year passed through Elmina's door of no return, right up until 1814 when the Dutch slave trade was abolished.
I'm Rabbi Kohen Netanya Halevi. I am the Executive Director of the Panafest Foundation, in charge of organizing the Panafest Festival, as well as a member of the National Steering Committee of the Year of Return. We are here at the infamous Cape Coast Castle Dungeon, here in Cape Coast, Ghana. We call it Cape Coast Dungeon because it is the dungeons that our ancestors were held in. Millions of Africans were held in the dungeons in the bottom of this here fort and taken away from here in slave ships. And because of that, we have come back here to what we call the scene of the crime committed against African people, a crime that was perpetrated for over 400 years. And now 400 years later, we're here to celebrate the resilience of the African spirit that refused to be dominated by foreign oppression that took place over these centuries, that we're back here to say we have returned. Here is housed the infamous door of no return, when the African ancestors who went through these doors thought they'd never see these shores again. And certainly the perpetrators who brought them through these doors thought that they would never see this continent again. But by the grace of Almighty God, we have returned in this year of return. And that's the story that we've come back here to tell, and that's what we want thousands of Africans to take the journey to come back and hear your own story, hear your own truth, and experience what your ancestors experienced and relive the strength and the resilience of the Africans that survived all of that and produce you and produce us and produce me, this generation that is the greatest generation of Africans that the world has ever seen. And we've come back to manifest that greatness in the eyes of all the people. I'd like to invite and encourage all Africans in the diaspora to come home to Mother Africa. That's what this year of return is all about. We have traveled to foreign lands, we've given of our strength, we've given of our mind and our imagination and our spirit in foreign lands to help make other places great, but this is a time that our ancestors are actually calling us back home to Mother Africa via the window and the door of Ghana, that we might make our meaningful contribution back to our motherland and back to Mother Ghana so that we Africans can make Africa great again. We understand that we come from a very rich heritage and culture, and that rich heritage and culture has been buried and swallowed up within the minds of other people infiltrating our minds and convincing us that any place is better than Africa. But this is the year of return, that we are commemorating the 400-year anniversary of the first of our ancestors taken from these shores as captives being brought to the United States of America. We know that many of our ancestors were brought to other parts of the Americas longer than 400 years ago, but we've chosen this year to commemorate from 1619 to 2019 as the 400-year anniversary that we're making the call for Africans to remember your motherland and to remember where you come from and to return back home to Mother Ghana. So that's why it's been tagged the Year of Return. The President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, launched in the United States of America in September 2018, the Year of Return, inviting all Africans of the diaspora, whether you're part of the historic diaspora of those who left these shores and left the dungeons on the west coast of Africa and traveled on the hulls of slave ships and arrived in foreign plantations abroad, or whether you're part of the new diaspora that left here 1 or 2 generations ago. The time is for Africans to join together and come back to Mother Africa and make Africa our priority. It is not until Africa Africa is lifted up, that Africans will enjoy the respect that we need as African people. People are interested in Africa, but they're not interested in African people. And we as Africans must claim our motherland and claim our continent and let everyone know that we Africans have the capability, we have the capacity to develop Africa and to move Africa forward in the 21st century. And this is the year that we're calling for our Africans to return home. That's what the year of return means. It's not only a physical journey of you coming here for a tour, which you will be very much excited to do. You will be very much encouraged and inspired. But this return is also a mental and a spiritual return back to putting value on Africa and back to putting value on ourselves as African peoples. So we're lifting up this year of return as a new beginning. We know that the year of return will end in December, but our mission and the inspiration that we will gather in this year will carry us further into the 21st century and making sure we lay the foundation for a strong Africa and an Africa that will have an impact on the world stage for the 21st century.